What's up, guys? What's going on, man? I'm Paul. This is Pulling Theology's daily devotional with Trust in Jesus Ministries. Glad you're here listening. We are in Genesis chapter 50, verse 7 through 14. And this is the final chapter, the second part of the final chapter. There's three parts. First part we talked about last episode, where we saw Jacob's death. Well, we didn't see his death. Actually, we saw Joseph weeping and crying and just falling on the face of his father, and then asking and requesting Pharaoh if he can go bury his father and do the thing which his father had swore or made him swear to do. And now we're on the part where they're actually going and having the funeral procession. So if you haven't read it yet, go ahead and check it out, see what it has to say, and then come back and we'll discuss 4 questions. If you have read it, then stick with me as we enter in to the scriptures to ask the first question, which is, what's going on? And I said it earlier, they're having a funeral. Joseph left Egypt and went back to Canaan and has a ton of people with him, man. He has his family, his brother's family, has people from the house of Pharaoh, all going down to this funeral to what I would say is celebrate the life of Israel and his gathering back with his people. And so there is just so many people going. Everybody went. They said the only people that didn't go were the little ones and the cattle. Uh, and I read a little thing that talked about last episode. We said that this was important for Joseph to return to be a man of his word, because he told Pharaoh that he would return after burying his father, because he had to continue in doing the thing that he had been doing, which is taking care of the country. Even though the famine most likely is probably over, but he's still doing the job that he has called him to do and overseeing all of these things. And so this is kind of evidence that they're not forsaking the thing that Pharaoh had given them, the land of Goshen, that he is returning because they didn't bring their children or their cattle with them, signifying they're going to be back. You don't leave your children. You know what I mean? If you're going to be gone forever, you're going to take your kids with you. And then the cattle's like their possessions. They're going to bring their money too. So it's just a kind of like a a, a picture that they are keeping with their word. But yeah, as they head down there, man, it says they had such a lament. People were crying, and they were sad and happy, but they were just feeling the emotions of losing their father, the patriarch of this big tribe that had moved down. And yeah, so it was such a great cry that it said that the people that were in the land, that lived in the land at the time, saw it and were amazed by it. They were like, dang, man. He's like, well, whoever that was must have been a prestigious person, must have been something. You know what I mean? They must have some clout about him, because they are crying with a tremendous cry. And so they named the place after that, like the lament of the Egyptians. And yeah, and then it's after that it says that Joseph returned to Egypt, and everybody that went with him after they had buried their father, and that they had did the thing that their father had commanded them, that they had did the thing that Joseph swore, and Israel made him swear that he would do. So what does this say about God? Well, I think this is that God is with his people. It's important for us to remember that there was a presence with Joseph during his time in this horrible situation that he was in for a while, being in jail and being enticed by Potiphar's wife and all this. But it continues to say that the Lord was with him. And then now, at the death of his father, this great lament, this great sadness and crying of the people of Egypt, all of these people attending this funeral, is probably not because of the character of Israel. Even though Israel did some great things, discipled his children to grow up to trust in the Lord. We'll see some of that in a couple of other episodes as we talk about more of the ending of Joseph. But it's most likely because of who Joseph is. They're lamenting to lament with Joseph because he has done such great things in the community of the Egyptians. And this is all because of the sovereignty and the movement that God has done in Joseph's life to save the Egyptians. So God is with his people, man. God is with his people. What do we say about man here? I think it's, again, to be faithful and trustworthy in the words that you say. Be faithful and trustworthy in the words that you say. They did the thing that their father had asked them. He asked them to go and bury him in the place of his family so he can be united with his family, his fathers, his wife, and they do that. They do that. And also is to be able to place trust. This is a very difficult thing, to place trust into somebody's hands when sometimes people aren't trustworthy. But Jacob does this. Israel does this. And because of the people that he has given his trust to, they accomplish this. They do the thing that he swore for them to do. So trust and be trusted. Be a person who is who deserves trust. Be a person who is trustworthy, that people look at you and say, I can trust him to do the thing that I've asked because he has been faithful in the past. So how do we apply these truths to our lives? Man, first off, trust in the promises of God. See, Jacob and Israel is Israel and Israel. Jacob, Israel, trusted that what God would say would happen, that he would acquire this land, that in his family would grow and be a part of this. And so he wanted to be buried there because he knew this is the land that God had promised him. And so for us, man, trust in those promises of God. Where in your life have you not given everything? Because that's what trusting is. It's understanding that God, being who he is with his wisdom and his knowledge, his power and his love, can do what he needs to do for your life to be filled, to be complete, to be whole. And so trust in him to do that. Give him everything. It's a hard thing to do. It's easy to say, hard to do. Easy to say, hard to do. But also make it evident to see. Let other people notice. And we don't do this because we want to make ourselves something. We don't want to make ourselves a show, but we do this because we want to glorify the God who we know is trustworthy. So that others, when they see our lives, then they want to trust in this God who we trust in. And so that's why it's imperative for us to make it evident. Just as Joseph left his kids and his cattle so that Pharaoh would see his faithfulness because he trusted in God, in the same way, we need to show some outward expression so that others can recognize and know that we trust in the God who is trustworthy. Hey, I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.